nurse's aide. Some residents are never truly gone. I worked as a nurse's aide at a nursing home for 2.5 years. A nurse's aide has ghost tales to tell from a nursing home. I will never forget the first time someone passed. As an aide, we were required to prepare the deceased for transport to the funeral home. We cleaned, dressed, and stayed with them until they arrived. That first time was almost traumatizing. No one had told me about breaths being left in the chest and the deceased exhaling that breath as a result of moving their body. So I thought, my goodness, he's alive. Over time, your skin gets a little thicker, and it becomes not so much routine, but commonplace. True stories of Room 109. I have seen people go calmly and others not so much. Take, for example, Room 109. We had an individual that was a rather negative person. He did some bad things, so his family didn't rush to stay in touch. He cursed us, even hit us, but we loved him regardless as he had no one else. When his time was drawing near, I knew he would go at any moment. We never let anyone go alone if we could possibly help it, so I, along with 3 other aides, surrounded his bed and held his hands. It's common practice for one to twitch and contort, somewhat, from what I had seen, but I looked at my friend and down at her hand. This man was squeezing her hand to the point it turned pale. His eyes fixed on the ceiling, and the last words that he said were, "No, I'm not going with you." We all were religious and knew what each other was thinking. We shook off the event and went about our job. A young lady had a rather rough surgery and needed to rehab, so she was admitted and put in that same room, 109. She was paralyzed from the neck down at the time. She was quiet and well-mannered. Until she overcame her hurdle, we fed, clothed, and did everything you could think of for her. Late one night, after we had gotten everyone showered and put to bed, the nurses and all the aides were at the nurses' station talking about the busy day we had. We heard someone shouting help, so, of course, we sprung into action. One by one, frantically, we checked every room. Nothing. We could not find the source of the screams. So we kept a close watch and ear on the hall. All of us were charting, sitting quietly when we heard a mysterious, loud crash that startled everyone. We jumped up and went toward the direction of the noise. We checked room 111, asleep. Room 110, asleep. Then we got to room 109, and as we opened the door, items were being scooted across the floor. We flipped the light on, and there were cookies, cards, and everything else that had been on this lady's bedside table. All of it was scattered across the room. There was also water dripping down the walls from where her water pitcher had been moved with force. The blinds were up and crooked, and the lady was hyperventilating. We started to clean up the mess and asked her what had happened. We knew she had no part in it. She could barely turn her head and had no use of her extremities. All she would say is, "Get me out of here." We were puzzled, scared, and told her we would check if there was another room available immediately. She said, "No, unlock my bed and roll me out into the hall right now." So upon her request, we did. Now please understand this occurred at 11 p.m. at night, and it is a secured, locked facility. We put her in a room with another resident for the night and cleaned up the mess. Having had small paranormal occurrences before, we knew what happened, but didn't say it out loud. This resident did about 2 weeks of therapy with us until her daughter came and signed her out to move her to another facility in another town. She told us it was not us, and that the staff, food, and accommodations were great. But her mother couldn't shake a feeling of doom and begged her to come get her. Good and evil in the nursing home. We always do a ceremony for people that leave, so we sang the song, gave parting gifts to her and Sarah, and sat with her a while, waiting on the ambulance for transport. She looked at Sarah and me and sternly said, "You're young. You're happy. Leave here. Your residents will understand." We were confused. She said, "I want to tell you what I saw that night." And so she did. The night of the incident, she heard a wicked chuckle coming from the bathroom. Drawing closer to her, she opened her eyes and saw, in the corner by the window, a thin, frail, tall man. He had hollow black holes for eyes, and his teeth were like razors. She said he told her she's never leaving, spoken in a nursery rhyme kind of way. She had started praying and closed her eyes, but could feel him breathing on her. At this point, she said she could feel his hot breath as he leaned down and whispered, "No one leaves this room." And she heard a crash, as if things were being slung as he yelled, "Nobody, nobody." She said that's when we entered the room. She told us there was a battle of good and evil in that facility, and that it could ruin the most beautiful of things. She wished us well, and off she went. We were scared, obviously, and knew exactly who was haunting that room. We've seen him in the window a few times while outside on break. Eventually, Sarah and I both got a job offer with a company that offered us more, so reluctantly, we left the facility behind. But both of us agree we feel an almost magnetic pull to that place. We experienced both good and evil there. We watched people go and the curtains flutter as if they were a breeze just passing through. And we have seen people go that were begging for mercy and forgiveness. I know and can stand behind the belief 101% that there is existence after our passing. Patient sees spirits. Some residents are never truly gone. I am an RN nurse and have taken care of several patients before they passed on. The scariest story is about a nice elderly man at a nursing home. His health started to decline, so we knew he would pass away within a week or so. I was working the night shift, and I walked into his room when he was talking away. So I asked him, "Who are you talking to?" He pointed to the end of his bed and said, "I am talking to those people over there." I told him there was no one there, and he turned and gave me a funny look. The next night shift I worked there, I walked into his room and he pointed to the end of his bed and said, "Look at that cage with snakes in it." I told him that there was nothing there, and again he gave me a funny look. Another night, I walked into his room. He was watching me walk in, but he was looking at something behind me. He asked me, "Is that a real dog with you or a stuffed animal?" I was freaked. When he said that, I stopped dead in my tracks and slowly turned my head to look over my shoulder, not knowing what I was going to see. Thank God nothing was there. Again, I told him nothing was there, and he gave me that same confused look. The next morning, I was giving report to the day shift nurse, and I told her, "I don't think Mr. B is going to the good place." She asked me why I said that, and I told her that he keeps seeing snakes and dogs. I had taken care of a guy that tried to commit suicide, but he lived. And he had told me that while they had been working on him, trying to revive him, that he had been in a pit of snakes. So the next time I came into work, the day shift nurse told me, "Elaine, I think you are right about Mr. B." "Why?" I asked her. She told me that his daughter and family had come in to see him before he passed away, and the day shift nurse had told his daughter that we nurses really liked her dad, that he was a really sweet man. The daughter got upset and told the nurse, "That man in that room physically and verbally abused my mom and all of us kids the whole time we were growing up." So apparently Mr. B was not a good person when he was younger, and before he died, he was seeing dogs and snakes. Not all visitors from the other side come to scare. Like this video if you believe, subscribe for more true stories, and tell us your experience in the comments.